All right, good afternoon and welcome. I'm Councilmember Nelson Esparza representing District 7. I'm joined today by my colleague Mike Carbasi in District 2, as well as both the City Manager and City Attorney, and our Economic Development Director, Lance Lippincott as well. We're here today to address the economic and fiscal impact and short-term response to the furloughing of hundreds of workers at Bitwise Industries. That response is going to boil down to three components. Finding ways to continue supporting downtown, finding ways to support the furloughed workers, and protecting any further taxpayer dollars from becoming collateral damage in this particular situation. We wish we were here under better circumstances. So the first thing we'll say is that the absolute best case scenario is that we all wake up next week sometime and everything goes back to normal. And that everything proposed here today becomes moot. And that is the hope, and we're always rooting for downtown and rooting for our downtown businesses to succeed. But with the very limited information that the city has to work with at this time, we have to be decisive and at the very least consider our course of action if the prospects for Bitwise Industries do not improve. Because the impact is already being felt by many employees as well as their families, and there is admittedly the potential for that impact to be felt residually within our downtown, within our city at large. As many of you already know, the city has an existing contract with the company to the tune of $1 million in American Rescue Plan funding. And that next Thursday's council meeting, myself, Councilmember Carbasi, as well as Councilmember Arias, will be asking our colleagues to have a conversation and to reconsider that contract in light of this developing situation. And so Councilmember Carbasi is going to provide some information in detail about the item that we're bringing forward, and then we're going to hear from the city manager on some of the resources and response that is being put together within the administration and the Economic Development Department, despite this very short notice that was provided to the city.
So I want to talk a little bit about this policy. Last year, as part of an RFP, Bitwise was awarded $1 million in a contract to use federal ARPA funds to support local businesses recovering during the pandemic. Now, for obvious reasons, we are bringing forward an item for the next council meeting to terminate this agreement. This resolution also ceases any further business with Bitwise or any of its affiliated entities until the present financial situation has been resolved, and we hope it will be. There will be an internal review for all business with the company and its affiliated entities conducted by the city manager, which, in conjunction with the city manager, which will be reported to the Economic Development Council Subcommittee. And just to make it very clear, one of our concerns regarding this item is, as a result of the recent compromise in Washington to raise the debt ceiling, the potential of sweeping ARPA money is a big part of that process, and we can't afford, when you're the city that has the second strongest economic recovery in the country for the top 49 cities, we can't afford to lose any momentum. So we have to get this money back out there, helping us on this continued path forward. So I also want to make a little bit of a comment about the mayor's letter. Part of this resolution supports the mayor's letter yesterday informing Bitwise of what I do perceive as a violation of the WARN Act. The WARN Act is the California Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. It specifically requires employers with 75 or more full-time employees within a 12-month period to provide 60 days advance notice to the employees, which is very important, but also to the EDD, and to the local government, in this case, the city of Fresno. And why is that? Because it gives us the time to respond and get resources that the city manager is going to discuss with you to help employees in the transition. And I firmly believe Jake Soberall and Bitwise have robbed this city of that time, that critical time. At this time, I'm going to introduce City Manager Georgianne White.
Thank you, Councilmember. My pleasure to be here today supporting and the mayor is on his way to the U.S. Conference of Mayors meeting today, so he wasn't able to join personally. As Councilmember Carbasi stated, the mayor sent a letter to Bitwise yesterday reminding them of their obligation under the California WARN Act. And as the councilmember stated, we receive WARN Act letters. In my time in the city in 22 years, I probably have seen 100 of them over the years informing the city of impending layoffs or furloughs. And as the council member said, it's really important that we receive those, because here we are today with a couple days notice trying to make sure that the employees of Bitwise have resources available to them. So to that effort, our Economic Development Director, Lance Lippincott, worked immediately with our Blake Consul, the director of the Fresno WIB, the Workforce Investment Board, and we are going to be partnering with them for Bitwise employees on June 9th. There will be a rapid response orientation resource fair for those employees. So this is not so much a job fair just yet, but this is getting all of the agencies in the room, whether it be EDD for unemployment benefits, whether it be the county for any sort of public assistance, or any other resources that may be available from governmental entities in the event of furloughs and layoffs. So we will be participating in that. And then as well, we have already begun evaluating the vacancies in the city of Fresno, which are posted publicly all the time, but we'll work towards putting on a job fair here, probably here at the city, to be able to make sure that Bitwise is available. The employees are aware of the jobs that are available here at the city. We know that they had an amazing workforce, and we ourselves have lost employees to Bitwise. So while I certainly, and none of us revel in what is going on, if we can provide opportunities for those employees to come back or come to the city and work, we would welcome them with open arms. We have a number of vacancies, so we're looking forward to working closely. Lance Lippincott, our Economic Development Director, will be leading up that effort with our personnel department to highlight the vacancies that might fit for those employees. And with that, I will thank you. I will turn it back over to Council Member Esparza.
So additionally, I just want to put out a call to residents of Fresno to continue supporting our downtown. While Bitwise has been a key element of our downtown over the years, there is so much more to our downtown beyond that. And while things continue to sort themselves out, I strongly encourage residents to continue shopping and eating downtown. We have the ability as a city to be resilient, and I'm hoping that the entire community will come together and rise to the occasion in this particular predicament. We do not have a crystal ball. We don't know exactly what the future holds. And so all we can do right now as a city is act on the limited information that we do have. I know that one of the big elephants in the room is the buildings where the company houses their operations in downtown. The fate of those buildings remains unclear at this point until we as a city can get some clarity on where things are headed. But put simply, we're going to continue to adjust and calibrate our response as we learn more and as those opportunities to help continue to present themselves. So to close this out, I'll hand it back over to Councilmember Carbasi.
Thank you. So yeah, just to clarify again, I think what the unifying reason why we're all here is we're concerned about the 300 families in Fresno that have been impacted by this sudden and difficult news. And we do have, I think, a moral responsibility, among anything else, to do our best to make sure they can get along their way, whether it's getting help through job retraining, job placement, or getting help through unemployment, or what do they have to do, and connecting with those services that are already in place. So at this time, we will be taking questions. Anyone who would like to go first? Tim? Sorry, Tim first. I'm sorry.
Mayor Dyer mentioned last night that Bitwise has been able to account for about 120,000 of the first 500,000 that was delivered under the ARPA funds. What are the plans for the remaining 300 and whatever it is?
Bill.
They've accounted. Oh, well.
What?
Yeah. So when we release the first $500,000, it requires quarterly reporting. And so our first quarterly report that we received demonstrated how they spent the first $120,000-ish. The second report is due July 14th. So right now, they're not delinquent on that report. So I think the resolution that the council members are contemplating will talk about trying to recapture any of the funds that have not yet been spent of the remaining 500, well, what is it, like 360? Yeah, right? 380. Yeah, thank you. Get math in my head. So I suspect that a portion of that 380 has been spent, but until we get that report that they have to document what they spent it on, we don't know that right now.
Okay. What due diligence was done when Bitwise applied for that $1 million
Yeah, so as the council member stated, it was a citywide RFP in the fall of 22. And we put on the street an RFP for $10 million of funding, of ARPA funding, to support community benefit organizations to submit to help various factions of the community recover from COVID. So when ultimately Bitwise was awarded the $1 million, there's two things. One, in their proposal, they have to submit to what their compliance protocols are. And then prior to final execution of the contract, our team goes over to Bitwise and does a compliance check and make sure that they have internal controls, mostly accounting controls, in place to be able to comply with auditing standards that are required for all of those dollars. And at the time that we did do that review, they did have sufficient accounting controls in place in order to be able to account for those dollars, as demonstrated by the first quarter report that we received.
Now, is this the only business the city has with Bitwise? Are there leases, either you lease from them or they lease from you?
So, as we have learned, Bitwise operates under a number of subsidiary organization names. We don't know them all. Some of them I've learned from reading in various media outlets. So obviously we know the Bitwise name, but there are other entities affiliated with them that don't have Bitwise in the name. So the ones we know of. So I do know about 3.5 years ago, we entered into a partnership with them for a National League of Cities grant. For a total of $70,000 that we received. The money was from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And the Economic Development Department, Lance's predecessor, implemented that. And that had to do with economic mobility and a website that they were helping to develop to partner with our website to help those who have traditionally not been engaged with the city in trying to make upward mobility adjustments. So of that, it's my understanding almost the entire amount has been expended, $60,000 of that. I understand there's still $10,000 that we are still in possession of because they haven't completely completed the project. But I think they're about 95% complete on that project. That's to my knowledge today of what we know of doing a search for the name Bitwise. That is all. I'm checking on some parking to see if we have any sort of parking agreement for them for the lot adjacent to the Santa Fe lot next to the Amtrak. We're looking into that to see if we have any sort of agreement with them for leasing of parking space. They lease from us. But once again, they operate under a number of subsidiary names that we don't know all of. So we only know, what is forward facing with the Bitwise name. And I think, a few others. The order slip, obviously, we're familiar with because it's been public. And then the Shift Technologies. But I've read in the media there's several other subsidiaries. And so we're every time we hear of a new subsidiary, we're searching to see if we have any sort of business dealings, but those are the only ones I'm aware of.
Part of this bill also calls for the review, and that's part of the process we're going to have.
And then can you explain how it's been that since September 2021, they haven't turned over their tax information? How does it go that long?
Okay, so the way that our municipal code works for business taxes is it is the business owner's responsibility to obtain a business tax certificate and pay their business taxes, which is based on gross receipts. So we did send multiple delinquent notices to them about not receiving their most recent payments. And the way that our municipal code reads, first of all, I just want to put it a little bit in perspective. Our business taxes here in the city of Fresno are not huge. They're capped. So it's a percentage of gross receipts depending on the type of business that you're conducting. So in the case of Bitwise Consulting, which is the one we're talking about, their tax cap is $21,000. So the most that we haven't received is $21,000 because it doesn't matter sometimes if they were making $100 million, versus making $1 million or $2 million. So all, depending on the sector, those are capped. So the amount of money we're talking about is about $20,000 that they likely are delinquent in, and it's based on reported gross receipts. So you self-report. So you tell us how much money you made, what your gross receipts are. There's a calculation that's done. You do it yourself. There's a little chart that says, oh, I made X dollars in gross receipts, therefore my tax is X. And they did not turn that in. We sent them multiple delinquent notices. And then we did receive a submission in January, but there was a discrepancy between that submission and the previous submissions. And so we were working on trying to evaluate what if there was a mistake that was made, or if there was no money due, if there's a calculation error. So the way you self-report, the teeth in our municipal code, we don't shut businesses down for not paying their business taxes, and especially during the pandemic. There was a conscious effort of this city, whether it be business taxes, whether it be utility bills. We did not go after delinquencies during the pandemic. We were not aggressive with delinquencies. So I think, this certainly highlights, we're out of the pandemic now, and we're going back and evaluating what all of our delinquencies are. We already are going down the path in the utility arena to start trying to get people to catch up. But $20,000 is looks like what the maximum delinquency was for them, and we'll continue to encourage them to submit their paperwork.
Just from one subcompany, what about like maybe the BW Industries Inc.?
Why don't we let we'll come back to you, David. Anyone else with questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So what is the next step in terms of, the deadline? Do you have a deadline to pay this taxes, to pay the remaining money of the grant, and just in general, what's next?
Yeah, so on the tax, so we have been trying to reach out to them to discuss what they submitted in January, and we'll continue to do that. At the end of the day, if they don't submit their taxes, I asked, what's the worst case scenario? What happens under our municipal code? And basically, you have options of taking them to court to recover the money. So depending on the amount, it could be small claims court, it could be superior court. As I said, there was a conscious effort to not be aggressive in delinquencies during the pandemic. So for a $20,000 amount for the Bitwise consulting, obviously that would have to be a discussion if we wanted to use resources to try and attempt to collect that. But we have run the other entities that we've learned about through our business tax system. And right now, we have 3 submissions. We have the Bitwise Consulting, we had Shift 3 Technologies, and we had one more that closed their account. It had something to do with one of their real estate deals, and they ended up closing the account because they said that affiliate wasn't doing business. So we only had a record of 3 in the city.
Now, in terms of the grants, do they have a deadline to return the remaining money that they didn't?
You want to take that?
Sure. So their next report is due July, so we'll know if there's anything left out of the remaining 380. But the grant agreement specifically does require that the company, any company we work with, returns unused payments of unearned payments that they haven't used.
And also to be active? Because right now they're not working, right? So.
Right. Well, if they can't perform and they can't show they've earned that money, then they're required to return it.
And that's notwithstanding the fact that it's federal American Rescue Plan funding. So whatever other strings may be attached at that point that we're not aware of.
Correct. Any other questions? Yes. I'm sorry, Tim. I'll come back. Who hasn't spoken? Yes, sir.
With the WARN Act, with the grant money, and obviously these bills have a big impact on the city. Could you guys comment on whether the city might be seeking legal action?
We're going to have our city attorney answer legal questions.
Hey, can I move this?
Yes.
Thank you. So under the under the WARN Act, there are certain remedies available to the employees. Some of these include back pay, health benefits for up to a maximum of 60 days, notice period for impacted employees, actual reimbursement of out-of-pocket medical costs that would have otherwise been covered under the insurance, their health insurance plan. There are stiff civil penalties up to $500 a day that may be assessed per employee. This needs to go to court. We looked into whether the city would have standing to pursue some of these claims for these employees. The city's not in a position legally or frankly ethically to do that. I am aware of an attorney, a local attorney, Roger Benakdar, who is working on a lot of these claims, and so I would forward any questions about that to that individual. I think he's working with several employees to recover under this.
Furloughs qualify under one?
In the city's opinion, yes. There's a recent Fifth Circuit, 5th DCA case that covers this exact issue, and I can provide that citation to you later.
Have you been able to make direct contact with the CEOs? I know the mayor released a letter, but have there been any actual conversations with them?
I know that the mayor has attempted, since this has all come out, and he has attempted to reach Jake Soberall and has not heard back from him. I don't know if anybody else has.
You mentioned an effort to try to keep the other $500,000 here in the downtown area to avoid being swept back under ARPA. What kind of projects are being contemplated for that other $500,000?
Well, to be frank with you, this has all happened so fast because we didn't have that warning that we are evaluating that. And of course, we're going to talk to the council member for the area when we make those decisions and the administration, but we have to make sure it's compliant with ARPA. Is that fair to?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And also, go on, it flew out of my head.
Okay, we'll come back. Yes, sir.
Actually, two quick ones. First, you mentioned, city manager, you mentioned the last delinquency. When was the last delinquency notice actually sent out to the
Hold on. Yes, December 2022.
Got it. And then,
Thanks, Ruthie.
and then also, non-related, does the city have any plans to assist any of the businesses that were actually operating out of Bitwise locations?
So I would say any of the businesses who have been impacted, certainly our economic development department is available to assist in any way that we possibly can. We absolutely, I mean, the whole funding for them was to assist small businesses. So of course, our priority is to support small businesses. So anything we can do to any of those businesses, we'll certainly do whatever we can.
So reach out to the economic.
Yes, absolutely.
A question for the councilman,
Which one?
both of you.
Okay.
Do you guys believe the CEOs of Bitwise are criminals?
Oh, that's a, we'll have, and
No, I want to hear from you guys.
that's a legal question I can't answer. It's so early in the process.
No, we've answered this question already. I mean, there's a lot that we don't know. We're learning new information, not every day, but roughly every 12 hours at this point. There's some new report. So at this point, it's we didn't convene this press conference to bash anyone. It's really about supporting downtown, supporting our furloughed workers, and protecting taxpayer dollars. That's what we're here. So it's a past judgment. It's too soon to say.
Would you guys hire them as a city?
Well, okay. Let me answer it this way, and I'm gonna, if you don't mind, Andrew, after me. Okay, so let me put it this way. So this is how I got to this point, because thanks to your reporting, we're learning a lot from different news sources. So looking over everything, Jake Soberall did an interview with GV Wire last week. When asked about the financial health, his response was, "I hope it's good." Then he claimed that they had problems working with the payroll company, and that's why they're issuing paper checks. So what we do know, based on your reporting, and some of these are just allegations, but there's a 2022 suit alleging breach of contract with the State Center building in Fresno. A 2023 lawsuit filed recently claiming that Bitwise violated a contract, borrowed $30 million using buildings for collateral when it only had a 5% ownership stake, then listing those buildings for sale to raise more cash. Not paying property tax in Fresno County at the tune of $122,000, not paying property taxes in Kern County or Alameda County. Of course, not paying the City of Fresno business tax, at least $500,000 in delinquent lease payments, but the more serious ones for me because they impact the workers, allegations that Bitwise took money out of employee paychecks, yet failed to deposit those funds into the employee 401k plans and the benefits employees expect to receive. Alleged issues with a payroll company, and I can tell you, I've used payroll companies in my business in the past. You have to have money to deposit to the payroll company a couple days before so they can issue checks. That wasn't disclosed. The question is, when did they know and how soon did they know? I think it's pretty clear that the fact that that payroll deduction started happening in March, over 72 days ago, they had to be aware something was going on. And we should have been informed. That way we're not scrambling, we're on it, and we're actually helping these employees, because we are on it now, but this should have been going on for 60 days. So I can't comment if anyone's criminal, but I can say in the case of Mr. Soberall, he's very irresponsible. And no, I would not hire him or the other 54 vice presidents the company has for some reason. Andrew?
And are these any allegations that Fresno police would investigate?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to comment on whether there's an investigation or not. You would have to go to the relevant authority, U.S. Attorney's Office, Attorney General.
Would Fresno PD be the relevant authority since
Well, it would depend on what the allegation is, and we're at an early stage right now. We're taking a deep dive into the financial documents that they handed us. We relied on them. I went back and looked. The city did its due diligence in terms of looking at what they gave us, but we had to rely on what they had. And so these are ARPA funds. There's a federal implication there, and so maybe that answers your question.
I'll be frank with you, David. I think where we're at and why this is coming forward, we are about ensuring the recovery of this city after the pandemic. We're ensuring about the 300 families that were affected. That's our main focus right now, making sure the effect on them is as minimal as possible. Kate?
I knew the city said that they were going, kind of easier on businesses with the taxes during the pandemic in light of everything, but how are they eligible for their grants still with delinquent taxes?
I'll take that.
So I think that's one of the things that we need to tighten up. I asked specifically whether it be Bitwise or any company that we do business with on any Thursday council meeting, if we have included in our process to ensure that people they have their business tax certificate. We're still looking into where that is in the system. Clearly, that didn't happen in this instance. And while it's not good because any taxpayer delinquency is bad, but $20,000 is a lot better than millions of dollars. So we're going to have to take a look at our process and make sure that we have the checks and balances. As with any bureaucracy, you have different departments doing different things. So we need to make sure that we have a comprehensive checkoff system to make sure that everybody's, before the contract is signed, that's part of the checklist, that people have a current business tax certificate. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's also not forget that they have performed some of the work. The work they created was good. I mean, the employee work was fantastic. That's why they were able to win the RFP. So, it's not. It's just a sad situation because you have a lot of people, and they touted that they help people that are more vulnerable, that maybe have a harder time getting training, getting jobs, not just here, but in Buffalo, in Toledo, in Oakland. And it's just a really, really hard thing for communities across this country. Tim.
It came back to my head.
Okay.
You mentioned relying on self-reporting in the case of Bitwise and other businesses on the business taxes. What authority does the city have, if any, to do an audit of a business, given the nature of the financial questions that we talked about?
We actually do, and I was just reviewing the municipal code. Ruthie, unless you want to shout from the back row there. We do have, under section 7-1007 of our municipal code, it says licensed inspectors may enter free of charge at any time, any place of business for which a license is required by this chapter, and demand the exhibition of any such license by any person engaged or employed in the transaction of such business. Licensed inspectors shall also have the power to collect and receive money in payment of license fees. So, we don't have a ton of business license inspectors in the city of Fresno. And I think traditionally, when we are aware of a very large delinquency, this is a tool that we have to be able to go in and make sure, I think if you go in any business, they have the little City of Fresno business tax certificate. It's supposed to be posted. And if it's current, it means that they are current on their taxes. So that is what we have available, is to go in and do the inspection and then take any action as I described, whether it be small claims court or superior court, to go after any delinquencies if we get to that point.
like to actually go in and audit their books and make sure they're reporting accurately?
I don't believe so. For business tax certificate, right? I mean, the ARPA dollars are something different, but on the business taxes, I don't believe that we can go in and audit their books.
So, Councilman Sparta, you're still head of the audit committee, correct?
Yeah.
So you guys, do you have the authority to at least see if they're spending their $120,000 correctly?
It's in the reports that they submit.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be in the reports. And I mean, in terms of whether an audit of an external company is permitted, I mean, that's the question we'll have to explore legally. I mean, it's a topic we're going to take on at the next Finance and Audit Committee meeting. It's just unclear whether that is permitted.
We also don't want to take money away from them because that's money that gets funneled back to the employees they've earned. I know it's a small drop in the bucket overall, but we don't want to impede employees getting what they rightfully deserved. Fair.
But I guess the question, how do you make sure they spent the $120,000 on what they said they spent it on?
It's part of the federal, so in the grant agreement that they signed with us, they have to comply with the federal uniform guidelines. And that's when we go in and do our due diligence. So they have to submit an audit report, and the one that they submitted, the one that's due in July, and they have to go through. So they have to declare that what they're doing is true and correct, and these are federal funds. So do we go in and sit at their accounting system and say, oh, you put $1,000 here, show me on the screen? No. As with any audit within any company, we have to rely on the information that's provided to us that is declared that it's true and correct.
Okay, so we're going to do one more question and close this out. We're over time. Has anybody not asked a question that would like to ask a question? Okay, now anyone else that want to ask a question that's asked a question?
Councilor, do you guys have what's your relationship with Jake and Irma?
I've seen him from afar one time. I think they've been in the chamber before.
Shaking his hand and made cordial over the years.
Yeah. So as we close out, I just want to remind you, if you are a property owner out there and you find, right now those buildings are open, which is great, so the businesses can operate. But if you're a property owner out there and you have vacant space, reach out to Lance, offer that space up because you may have some businesses that need that help. If you know someone, like so many of us do, that have been impacted by this, just call them, let them know you care about them, you're here for them. And just sometimes having someone you can talk to when you're facing a sudden life impact like this, especially when they have kids and a family, it's a very big deal. And if you're a landlord, you want to take a little bit of a break on them, that might be a good thing too. We hope you do that. So thank you very much, everyone, and we're obviously available individually to answer any questions you have. Thank you.